Excellency, for the wonderful speech. Next, we are privileged to have Dr. Vladimir Rabin, the Executive Secretary of the IOC of UNESCO and Assistant Director General of UNESCO. Before that, allow me to share some background of Dr. Vladimir. He graduated as a marine engineer in 1978 and received the academic distinction of Doctor of Sciences thesis in 1995. Dr. Vladimir is the originator of several mathematical models for ocean, atmosphere, wind waves, and others. He is also the author of hundreds of scientific publications. Dr. Vladimir also joined the International Ocean Institute in the year of 2000 as a consultant and later was selected as the executive director. He was appointed as Executive Secretary of IOC following voting to the form of short list of preferential candidated by the IOC Executive Council. He took the post in March 2015. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vladimir to share his insights on UN Decade of Ocean Science before we proceed with the webinar. Please welcome.
Dear Malaysian colleagues, let me welcome you at the start of your meeting that is devoted to the kickoff of your work on the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. I thank you very much for inviting me to address you on this important occasion. Would like also to state that Malaysia is now today joining a group of nations that already have established national decade committees. And I think with the whole world, we will be moving forward towards the ocean we need for the future we want. So let us briefly think about the title of the decade, the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. So every word matters in that title. This is about United Nations. This is 193 nations, all nations in the world. They need ocean science. We thought originally that we would probably propose a decade for the ocean, but we really needed the focus, and the focus is on ocean science, because sustainable development, the practical aspects of ocean science are incredibly ocean science intensive. We need solutions. In 2016, less than a year after the agenda of sustainable development was proclaimed by United Nations, also United Nations published the first World Ocean Assessment, in which it was stated very clearly that the humankind is running out of time to start managing the ocean sustainably. So that is exactly the paradigm that was the motivation for us to propose the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. So what do we mean by managing the ocean? We need to manage coastal zones, and we have integrated coastal zone management approaches. We need to manage ocean space. For that, we have evolving ideas behind maritime special planning, behind marine protected areas, behind different sensitive areas in the ocean. We're establishing in the United Nations a legally binding instrument for the conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. That means for the open ocean, for the high seas. We also need to learn how to manage fisheries and aquaculture better. This all will be happening under conditions of climate change. So we need to address adaptation to climate change and its mitigation, at least the ocean aspects of this. This all requires policy and work on the science policy interface, so the politicians and the decisions that are taken are informed. We also need to further develop ocean services, different types of, like warnings about harmful algal blooms, like, for example, warnings about tsunamis, and we cannot leave anyone behind. So that was the motivation for us to propose to United Nations the Decade of Ocean Science. We did it in 2017. I would like to say that it was a very important moment when the United Nations General Assembly, after heavy discussions with the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, agreed to proclaim the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development within structures and resources. That means they're not going to allocate funds for that. And this decade is now starting because, you know, it started on the 1st of January 2021. So we were able to engage a big number of people, experts and all kinds of people in all-inclusive process about designing the decade. We engaged countries. Malaysia was very active during the development of the implementation plan of the decade. And also hundreds of different organizations. Malaysia is very strong with its universities. So we had that resource. And now the world agreed on the elements of the implementation plan of the decade. First of all, we agreed on the societal outcomes of the decade. We would like to have the ocean clean, free from pollution, healthy, resilient, productive, predicted, safe. We also would like to have accessible ocean that also concerns data, and inspiring and engaging ocean. And you can easily see from those adjectives that I used that these are qualities not only of kind of ocean water, these are very much qualities of people, because only people can be inspired by their work in the ocean. We also outlined 10 challenges of the decade. These are initial challenges. These are areas in which we would like to start our activities and start our science programs. So we have to deal with ocean pollution to begin to need to understand it better and try to remove or reduce ocean pollution. This will also make us more capable to understand better and also make ocean ecosystems healthier. And this is the path towards feeding the people better, and but not only feeding, but developing the whole ocean economy. This will be done under the conditions of climate change. Sea level rise, so important for Malaysian coast, because this you live in the area where there is the pace of sea level rise is the fastest in the world. There will be tropical cyclones more intense. And of course, there are tsunamis and some other hazards. So we need to deal with climate change in terms of adaptation indication. I already mentioned this. We also need to develop multi-hazard early warning systems. And in order to address the complexity of the ocean, we need to have an observing system in which we already have, I would say, competent part for physical variables, but we need also to add biogeochemical, biological, ecological variables. We need to observe in the ocean in its depth, the polar regions as well. We need to turn that observations into data that is accessible and usable and useful data. And they cannot leave anyone behind, because you know the capacity of ocean science in many places is very, very limited. And we need to change our relation with the ocean. So these are the main challenges and initial directions for the decade. What are these prospects? They are immense, because I think what is changing now very strongly is our understanding that we can really save the ocean. The high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy decided that they will show the world a good example. 14 heads of state and government that are united under this panel decided to manage 100% of waters under their national jurisdiction on the basis of plans that are in turn are based on good science. This is already start. You know, the start of something that is really historic. We are turning now towards saving the ocean. From the state, we are going from the state of decline of ocean health to initial actions to save the health of the ocean. And the high-level panel said that this will be benefits coming with this. We can generate 6 times more food than now through fisheries and aquaculture. We can generate 40 times more renewable energy. We can generate also much more resources in terms of monetary value. And we can also reduce the gap of carbon towards the 1.5 goal of Paris Agreement because of the ocean factors. So I welcome you to the family of nations that are contributing to the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. I wish you all the best in your deliberations, in the co-design. So, because we are starting basically, from the ideas, from the level of endorsement, and I think it's very important for us to spend good time on co-design of decade actions, how we will move forward the science in a coherent way. So the Environmental Oceanography Commission of UNESCO, which is the coordinator of the decade, is with you. So please feel free to ask questions. Please feel free to come to our platform so we can move together in designing the science we need for the ocean we want. And I think 10 years ahead of us will be exciting. The decade is going to be probably the largest campaign in the history of oceanography. But it will be also one of the most useful campaigns because we will learn about 70% of the area of the planet on which we live. And this is important for us to live better, to live in harmony with the planet and its ocean, and also to become better by acquiring from the ocean the qualities that are so important, the transparency, the kindness. So this is the purpose of the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and I wish you to make a very good contribution to that decade that will also benefit your country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vladimir, for the remarkable speech. Moving on to the next agenda, I would like to invite our moderator for today, Dr. K. Nagulendran, the Deputy Secretary General for Environment in Ministry of Environment and Water Malaysia, to begin the high-level webinar entitled Ocean Decade, Science and Policy Integration. I now pass the floor to Dr. Nagu.
Right, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for your excellent facilitation of the event. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is fine, given the circumstances that we are in. Thank you all for taking time off to be with us in this very important webinar as we celebrate the UN Decade of Science for Oceans. And for today, we have got 4 distinguished, very learned experts together with us. And before I go on to the program, I'd just like to explain that today is the highlight of our UN Decade of Ocean Science launching at national level in Malaysia. And this day today was preceded by many events that has been happening in the last few days, beginning 25th of March. And in this regard, I would like to put our appreciation record to University Science Malaysia, University Malaysia Terengganu, and University Malaya. These are all local universities who have collaborated with the ministry to host a series of very exciting webinars. And today we are at the apex of the webinars, if I may put it, to discuss a very important topic, as Sarah has introduced, on science and policy integration with regards to the ocean decade. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, ocean covers 75% of our beautiful planet Earth, but as anthropocentric as we have been focusing much of our work on the terrestrial ecosystem. Though we know oceans provide huge amount of services which have not been really quantified in terms of monetary, from regulating climate, from providing fresh air, from providing trade routes for economic augmentation, recreation, and many of the frontier medicines are probably lying in the ocean beds or somewhere in the ocean. So they have huge potential. While it's a very science-based topic that we are talking today, but I think we need also to look at multidisciplinary issues that are interlinked, such as security, such as indigenous knowledge, such as areas beyond national jurisdiction. So to discuss all this topic about policy integration, we have 4 panelists, as I said earlier. How we will do this webinar session is we'll let all 4 panelists speak, and I hope the panelists will keep to their time of not more than 15 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, all of you are joining us online today. You can post your questions through the Q&A facility that this online platform has provided to you. And we will take as many questions as we can. And I hope that we can have this session as interaction as possible. Right, I'll go to our first speaker. Our first speaker does not need much introduction. She is Professor Dr. Noreni Mukhtar, Iron Lady in the ocean world for people who know her. She's currently the Vice Chancellor of University Malaya. I've got a couple of pages of her biodata, but I'll keep it very short. Prior to this, she was instrumental in moving the National Oceanography Directorate at the former Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. And during her leadership there, she was very instrumental in moving the Coral Triangle initiative in our region forward. She has been a well-known champion of women and ocean work. So today, Prof. Noreni will share her experience on oceanographic research and policy planning, both at national level and international level. And for this, without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Noreni to take the floor. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagu. First, let me thank you for the kind introduction and also for the Ministry of Environment and Water for inviting me to speak in this highly prestigious webinar together with colleagues from the Westpac region as well as from the UNESCO itself, Dr. Vladimir, Professor Matsu, Professor Fang Li and Dr. Wenxi is all colleagues in those days when I was at the National Oceanography Directorate. Thank you very much. And I would like to congratulate first for the ministry. I know it's your doing as well, as we followed you after NOD, and when you were leading MOSTI then from previously, you were talking about how to revive the sustainable ocean sector. And I think we owe it to you basically for having this program today. Thank you so much. First, because of the colleagues that we have previously through the National Oceanography Directorate, I would like to thank colleagues from University of Malaya and University of Science Malaysia as well for having to work together with us to put up this discussion. And I know that for the Malaysia context, we just hope that I can discuss a bit more when I have the slide to be shown on screen, if you don't mind. I have the slides, prepared some slides. Thank you so much for this launching of Malaysian UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. It's appropriate for me to start with. When we talk about a decade, a decade beginning 2021 to 2030. This is already mandate to us, through the United Nations General Assembly. Next slide, please. What do we want, in terms of the UN Decades of Ocean Science aligned with the global agenda? So the science we need for the ocean we want. Basically, I must thank again Dr. Vladimir. In 2017, he invited me to Paris, IOC UNESCO General Assembly, on the topic of the future we want during the ministerial roundtable. And again, I would like to reiterate on the workings of the committee towards this decade of ocean science. First, the framework, the pathways we are talking about is to transform. That is the knowledge systems to support sustainable development. We talk about the measurements of the ocean data, the cumulative impacts for effective solutions, because we cannot manage the ocean if we cannot measure, if we don't measure. We wanted to have this reduction of the vulnerability of the ocean due to the climatic changes, the coastal hazards that mentioned by Dr. Vladimir just now. We need to put our strength together to bolster our effort in terms of the ocean observing and data system, that through we have the connection within Asia Pacific, that is Westpac. We talk about how to deliver the best available knowledge that we have to decision makers. So now we as the university, a small group, basically previously we have a collection, a network of universities for the marine science research together with the ministry. But now I applaud the ministry for having to start with, for us to assist them to accelerate the transfer of marine technology, training and education through our universities. As our university, I would like to talk about the Institute of Oceanography and Environment of UMT. Next slide, please. Talking about the frontiers in marine and oceanographic research. So what do we want to align with what Dr. Vladimir had mentioned? Is for Malaysia Ocean Future Direction. We're talking about a clean ocean, a healthy and resilient ocean, a predicted ocean, a safe ocean, a sustainably harvested and productive ocean, a transparent and accessible ocean. In 2014 and 15, we have quite a draft of the ocean policy framework talking about how we actually accelerate the data science related to the ocean research, because we need to have the effort done in the Asia Pacific from the scientists. We have built the elements for the establishment of data center, ocean forecasting through with the programs together with China. And we have the data center, the associated data center for Malaysia with MOSTI as well as UMT. We talk about how to create this accessibility of the ocean, yeah, in terms of giving platforms, designing, yeah, so that we have this facility and infrastructure to measure as well as to expedite in terms of logistics. For the same ocean, as you know, that we have the tsunami as well as the coastal disasters, coastal erosion due to the sea level rise. And because of the climatic changes, we know that there are other issues with the marine pollution, that the more reason that we need to make more measurement. And previously we have a lot where the scientific research institute in Japan, in China, in Thailand, in Indonesia, within our region in Vietnam, that a lot of scientific expeditions has been done. But at the same time, at the global level, people are talking that there's lack of data for this region. What happened? Okay, so next slide, please. For this reason, we need to enhance our capacity and capability through the cooperation and partnership within locally as well as internationally. Previously, we were talking about we need to have a central database, yeah, through the National Ocean Data Center. We could have a national ocean policy. We could have also National Ocean Institute, because from we can accelerate and facilitate the knowledge transfer, the technology transfer, as well as coordinating in terms of the collaborations and partnerships, whether internally, domestically at our country, yeah, as a maritime nation, as well as with the regional level through Westpac platform, as well as reporting at the UNESCO level. Next slide, please. Dr. Nagu mentioned just now about how to have these governance issues, yeah, because of the fragmented. We know that it's not only for Malaysia, it's most of the maritime nations. A lot of different agencies or ministries are involved. So in 2018, basically we have this roundtable discussion on ocean governance from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can imagine that we have Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We may have Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries to look at the fishery sector. We look at Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the international cooperation, and Ministry of Transport. And likewise, we have other ministries and agencies involved. So the issue about governance, talking about beyond Malaysian waters, then we have a big issue. Then when we have the internally, we should have the centralized coordinating agency, of which the National Oceanographic Directorate was playing the function, and we have the focal person involved that could actually relate to the regional in Westpac, yeah, as well as the UNESCO level, where at that time you were representing in the IOC Executive Council, which is very well done. So again, I'm taking this opportunity and I'm hopeful through the leadership at the Ministry of Environment and Water today, we take the lead and to ensure that Malaysia will continue to voice our opinion. Because in terms of science and policy, there's a saying that we have an acronym, we call it PASTEL, PESTEL. P stand for political or politics, policy. We have E for economy, yeah. S for social and science. T for technology. E for environment. In order for us to protect the environment, in order to create a revenue from resources and manage sustainably, we need to have a legal framework that is law. So again, because of the nature of the marine oceanography and maritime issues, this is actually the common issues that have been discussed together at IOC and with our counterparts as well. So with the next slides, please, I just want to show the initiative has been mentioned. If we were to have this ocean science decade, I hope that the initiative towards the better management by having comprehensive data related to marine spatial planning, because we need to have a sound policy and institutional framework, but we need to have this balance between social economy development and ecosystem conservation. For that, we need to have this flexible and adaptive ocean planning to climate changes, especially addressing the transboundary issues, cross-border impacts, and so forth. So the biological, chemical, geographical dimensions consideration need to be done. So all this data in the form of comprehensive GIS mapping, physical data through yeah, the oceanographic data, chemical, biological data, we need to have this information with the objective indicating towards the sustainable performance of the direction of marine spatial planning for the country. From there, we need to be able to be useful. The scientists, the community will actually deliver what they need to deliver to the community, to the government, and to have this engagement, continuous engagement in the participatory approach. So for this public policy process for society to get better determination in terms of getting this approach for the ocean and coastal management to be measured, protected sustainably for future generation, we need to have this in place. For this reason, we have this ongoing program with our counterpart, with Xiamen University and with other universities in Malaysia as well. So that's, for this reason, we have this zoning plan that actually to encourage the government to plan sustainable resources as well as to avoid conflict of use. Okay, so next one, I would like to highlight that what we want to have by co-creating and co-designing in the form of education and awareness. Ocean literacy is paramount in a way that we need to start at the early age for the people to understand the importance and what ocean has offered to us. So which means that we need to give back. We need to give back for what they have offered, for food, for resources that we have. So we must do only to take care of them, yeah, to make it healthy, to make it safe, yeah. So that's the reason why you need to inculcate this knowledge through engagement, through the school, yeah, through the public awareness. For this reason, I would encourage that we have this youth and community engagement, of which we have done. I'm sure other universities have been doing that, and we have been doing this throughout the year, particularly during the World Ocean Week that we have every year when we celebrate the World Ocean Day. So again, with the industry also, we have engaged, we work with companies like financial institution, RHB, the shipping company, as well as from other NGOs towards the SDG reporting. And we have this project, we call it Ocean Hope. So this is the one that we think we could have a brand for Malaysia on the project for Ocean Hope. Lastly, that I have like to encourage also as the community-based program. Next slide, please. The empower, we need to empower because we say that we don't want to leave anyone behind. So with this, we need to empower the community towards the sustainable rural as well as the urban agenda. For this region, we have many companies that came forward to do part of their CSR. As I mentioned today, we work with the policy for the community, but at the same time, the youth will be involved directly. So I think in one of the challenges for the Ocean Decade, that we need to have the pillars for the participation of the young professionals, to be engaged and to be participating together with the community. So I just to highlight what we have done yesterday, we have, next slide please, my last slide actually. Next slide please. For this reason, we have in our university, we have this UNESCO club. UMT has initiated the UNESCO club 4 years ago under the Ministry of Education. And we have our students getting together with other students from other universities to initiate the UNESCO club. So we have our alumni, Farid, actually, together with his colleagues now. And Dr. Nagu has been involved with our program during World Ocean Week because of the UNESCO Club. And yesterday, they had this program, we call it Young Change Makers. It is an assembly of the students from all other universities together to talk about, for them to be given a chance to reimagine for global direction, of which is the science, ocean science, as well as to decade of work together, collaborating together for the protection and to save our ocean. With that, I stop here for a while. Thank you.
Framework and institutional framework to make this UN decade a success. So, and we can't agree more that we really need this science policy interface to balance this very fragile balancing of development and environment. So I will leave it at that, and maybe when we come back, we will be talking more on some issues that you brought about ocean literacy and all that. But I'll move on to our next speaker, who is Professor Dr. Fang Li Kyo, who is the Deputy Director General, the First Institute of Oceanography, Ministry of Natural Resources, People's Republic of China. Dr. Fang Li holds a PhD from the Chinese Institute of Oceanography, Chinese Academy of Sciences. He has been very much involved in oceanography work and is a respectable figure, as he also is in the executive planning group of the UN Decade of the Ocean Science. So I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of inside information from Dr. Fang Li in today's webinar. He's also the Vice Chair of IOC Westpac and editorial board of a very distinguished journal, the Journal of Marine Systems and Ocean Modeling. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Fang Li to share his views towards a predicted ocean of the UN Ocean Decade, covering both ocean forecasting systems and IOC regional training and research center in supporting governmental management. Dr. Fang Li, I welcome you to the floor.
Thank you very much. So could you hear me? So if you could hear me now, I will start my presentation.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can. Please carry on.
Okay. Okay,
Can-
it's my great pleasure to take part in this high-level forum. So my talk will be focused on towards the predicted ocean of the UN Ocean Decade. So as we know, there will be 7 outcomes of the UN Ocean Decade. One of them is the predicted ocean. So today, my talk will be focused on this predicted ocean. So in fact, the predicted ocean is not only ocean itself, okay, it's an ocean to climate. So it covers from several days to seasonal and even longer term prediction, such as several years. So it's quite helpful for ship safety, for the mitigation and reduction of the typhoon or hurricane disasters, and we can use it for climate prediction. So my talk will be separate to several parts. The first part is a predicted ocean. So why we need ocean forecasting system? So I would like to start from this one. As we know,
I kindly request you to go on slide mode.
in July,
Slideshow mode.
there is an accident of the Phuket Island. So after the accident, if we don't have the ocean forecast system, we need to do the search and rescue with a cycle. The cycle is, it's a large, heavy work. With a predicted ocean forecast system, we can only cover a piece of the cycle. That will be much reduced our work. And this ocean forecast system is confirmed by all the later rescue. So what's the challenge for the ocean forecast system? So as we know, the forecasted, the sea surface temperature is overheating, and the subsurface temperature is overcooling, the mixed layer is the depth is too shallow. So this is a common problem for all ocean forecast systems, okay? So we try to find a solution. This challenge lasts for half a century already. So we try to find a solution is based on turbulence understanding. So what means turbulence? You may not be an expert in this area. So here I will introduce. So turbulence is the most important unresolved problem of classical physics. So here I can send some word from Heisenberg. As we know, Heisenberg is a Nobel Prize. He writes, when I met God, I'm going to ask him 2 questions. Why relativity and why turbulence? I really believe he will have an answer for the first.
Yeah.
So his answer is, this right indicates us how important, how complex and how important of the research on turbulence.
Dr. Fang Li,
So, yeah.
Dr. Fang Li,
yeah.
Can you put your PowerPoint on slideshow mode?
Oh.
It's not moving. Your slide is not moving.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
It's so sorry. It's let me check. What's the problem? Let me check.
Can you put it on slideshow, Dr. Fang Li? Thank you.
Yeah. I will. What's the I will.
Right.
Try again. And slideshow. Oh. Could you see my slider?
Yes, I can see your slides. But could you just play
the
slideshow mode? Yes. Yeah, perfect.
I hope it can work now.
Yes, very good.
I hope it
Dr. Fang Li. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now it moves, right?
Now it's moving.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
So after after we developed a new theory on the turbulence, we can much improve our forecasting ability for the ocean environment. For example, so the lower panel is from observation. The middle is from the regional, the classical ocean model. And the upper panel is from our new model. So with the new model, the forecasting ability is much improved. And this game is adopted by different groups, such as the GFDL in United States. As we know, GFDL play a leading role in the world, and also the NEMO in the Europe. And here I show some results from adopted by AVI, a very famous institute in Germany. They use our theory. Their forecasting error can reduce 90%. So it's a great improvement for the ocean model development. So based on this understanding, under the umbrella of the IOC Westpac, we initiated the ocean forecast system for the Southeast Asia area from 1910. So there is some partners from Malaysia, Thailand, and other countries. So for phase one, we launch this is the launching ceremony of the ocean forecast demonstration system in 2012. This means 9 years ago. 9 years ago, we already provide operational forecast for this area. And later in 2018, this is phase two, we provide the global prediction of the ocean environment. And each end users can use their cell phone with the app. They can receive this ocean forecast result very easily. Okay. So what's the quality? The quality is very important. We compared our ocean forecasting system with some forecasting system from United Kingdom, from France, from US, from Canada. So our forecasting is the best. So based on this ocean forecasting system, we have different kind of applications. Here I show some example. The first one is the oil spill in the East China Sea. This is a Sanchi oil spill in January 2018. So so after the accident, so we forecast where the oil tank will be floated. The forecast result compared with the observation, they fit quite well. And another use is for the which area the oil can be affected. So in this one, we can clearly show it's how it can affect the so large area in the East China Sea and even in the Northwest Pacific. So this is one example. The other example is for the Arctic bloom. As you may know, in 2008, so there is an Olympic game in Qingdao. I located in Qingdao city, okay? So this is a very beautiful city. However, the Arctic bloom happened in 2018. Use this ocean forecast system, we can predict where the Arctic will move to. The second I would like to share with you is why we need a new typhoon forecast system. As we know, typhoon had huge damage impact on coastal people, including Malaysia area. Here is one example. The typhoon affected the Philippines. This typhoon, so more than 10 million people are much affected. So the accurate forecast is very important. However, when this is the forecasting ability for the typhoon track and the typhoon intensity during the past several decades. So the typhoon track is getting better and better. So we can get very, very accurate prediction. However, for the typhoon intensity, the forecast scale have no any progress during the past several decades. So this is a key question. So we try to solve this problem is why our forecasting ability on the typhoon is so low. So we developed a new model. It's by considering the wave spray. As we know, wave spray have a lot of heat transfer from the ocean to the atmosphere. By including this new process, the ASC interaction, the heat flux is much changed. And with this change, we compared our model results with observation. So for the strong typhoon, the error about 1/3 is killed. Okay. For the super typhoon is a very strong one. We can kill the error about 58%. So there is a great step. I think this can benefit all the people all over the world. The last one is why we need a new climate forecasting system. So as we know, the Asia is greatly affected by the Asian monsoon. Okay, our agriculture, as the rainfall. However, the prediction scale for the East Asia area is very, very low. So we need to improve our forecasting ability. Again, we developed a new model, new climate model by including surface wave. The upper one is the sea surface temperature bias from traditional climate models. As we know, the El Nino has much influence on our daily life. However, the climate model, the error for the climate model is much stronger than the signal of El Nino. So how to reduce this error? So our new model, the lower one is from our new model. Our new model, the bias, the sea surface temperature bias is much reduced. Okay. And we should come back to our Southeast Asia area. So this is water vapor transport. Water vapor transport is related with precipitation, the rainfalls. So with wave and without wave. So by including the wave, our simulation is much closer to observation. This gives us confidence. With a new model, new climate model, we can get a better prediction, and the people can benefit from this prediction. Here, I show one result. This is from GFDL. As we know, GFDL, they play a leading role in model development. They test different models, and their results show our model can get a much better result. So another activity in West Pac area is for the capacity building. So in our institute had host the first regional training and research center on ocean dynamics and climate. We call the ODC Center. This center started from 2011, and we already organized 9 annual training courses. So for each training course, we have several young scholars from Malaysia. So this is the last slider. So during the past 2 decades, we have very close cooperation with the UKM, with the UMT, and the MMD. For example, for the UKM, I cooperate with Professor noreni, Professor Tangang, and with this cooperation, we cooperate on the ocean forecast system. And for the UMT, We signed the MOU, we have joint crews, and we have the high resolution model in their computer system. So in Malaysia, they can have very high resolution ocean forecast system. For the MMD, we provide operational forecast results for MMD. And we also designed the APP for them. So every people in Malaysia can use the system to check the ocean forecast environment. So this is my conclusion. My conclusion is very simple. So with the scientific breakthrough on ocean turbulence, ocean forecast system international team has dramatically improved the forecasting ability of ocean, typhoon, and climate. Second is, based on the first surface wave tide circulation coupled model in the world, ocean forecast system was successfully developed under the umbrella of Westpac. This system provides service for Southeast Asia countries into operation since 2012 and updated in 2018. Both UMT and UKM have played a key role in the development of this system. So there have been fruitful cooperation between Malaysia and China on ocean forecast system, including technology sharing, joint crews, and capacity building. So for our future cooperation, typhoon and climate prediction will be conducted in the near future and the framework of UN. So UKM has showed high interest for cooperation, for downscaling. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Dr. Fang Li. I think that was very interesting insight on how important forecasting is to make better informed making, early response, and also with the growing challenges that we face augmented by climate change, this will become a very important field of interest. And I was very intrigued by the cooperation that's ongoing between Malaysia and China. And I think this kind of networking and cooperation is very important. And this will be further, I'm sure, augmented as we go through this whole decade of ocean science. So thank you so much, Dr. Fang Li. I'm sure the audience out there will have some questions to ask you. I'll move on to our third speaker, who is Emeritus Professor Dr. Mitsuo Uematsu from University of Tokyo. Professor Emeritus Uematsu is currently the director of the Center for International Collaboration at the University of Tokyo's Atmosphere and Ocean Research Institute. Professor's major area of research is on long-range transport of natural and anthropogenic substance over the ocean and the properties of marine aerosol, including their impact on the marine environment and their feedbacks on atmosphere. And I think this is a really very interesting topic because as Dr. Vladimir in his opening spoke about knowing more about the impact of ocean pollution. So I think this talk today afternoon, according to Malaysian time, will be very interesting. And before I give the floor to Professor, I also like to mention that Professor Uematsu was awarded the Japan Prime Minister's commendation for contribution to promote the country as a maritime nation in recognition of his significant achievements in the contribution to the development of multidisciplinary studies in marine and atmospheric sciences. Professor Emeritus Dr. Mitsuo Uematsu, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you for kind of the introduction. Distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to the high-level webinar this afternoon. It is my great pleasure to have an opportunity introducing the process for the successful implementations of the UN Ocean Decades. First of all, I would like to congratulate the launch of the Malaysia's UN Decade. Okay, let's share my slides if possible. Can you see my slides?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, good. The Ocean Decade commenced in January 2021. And its versions is the achieved the science we need for the ocean we want, right? To this end, a wide range of the partner will implement endorse actions in the form of program, project, and activities over the next decade. Proponents of this decade action will have the opportunity to join highly visible shared global effort that will be build upon the decade of the achievement in the ocean science. There will be the opportunity to create new collaborations across the disciplines, continent, and the generations, as well as the increased access to new source of support. The upcoming 10 years represent a once in a lifetime opportunities to deliver the ocean we need for future we want. Okay, when I visited Malaysia in July 2017, I was so impressed to find TV screens which introduce SDGs on the express train, as you may know. I could not find such disseminations of the SDGs on the subways or trains at that time in Japan. So you are heading of us. The SDGs, also known as a global goals, was adopted by the all United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. We are always keeping in mind the SDGs mottos, leave no one behind. And SDG 14 is primarily about the interactions of humans with the ocean. There are many unknowns paths of the ocean scientifically, and there is a consensus among the people concerned that it is not possible to achieve the goal simply by calling out promotion of SDG 14. As a result, it was decided to proceed with more concrete movement. So ocean contained 96% of the living space on the Earth, and ocean has the 80% of Earth's living organism. It covers 71% of the Earth. Almost half of the oxygen was breathed is produced by the ocean plants, which provide 4.2 billion people with at least 15% of their animal protein. 90% of the world trade is carried across the oceans. As you know, the Panama Canals, Suez Canal have been some troubles, last week, and hold an estimated 80% of Earth's mineral resources. Okay, so with all many communities, policy communities, science founders, research communities, business, and wider societies developed a common visions, integrate available knowledge, and implement action together, and learn from the experience and feedback. So that means we have to move on from science for science to science for society. Okay, now the ocean we have here, and the science we need. What is that? And then identified and generate the required ocean data, information and knowledge, and build a comprehensive understanding and increase the use of ocean knowledge. Then we'll find the 10 challenges listed up, and that is the for the 7 outcomes already you know. So it means it's a very difficult, important to co-design the value chain of ocean information with stakeholders. I like the word, science is fact. Just as houses are made of stones, so is science made of fact. But a pile of stones is not a house, and the collection of fact is not necessarily science. That's a word from the Poincaré. So most immediate and pressing priorities of the decades, they have the 10 challenges, as I mentioned, pollutant and contaminant, and the restored ecosystem and their biodiversity, and food from the ocean, and development of the ocean economies and ocean climate nexus, and multi-hazard warning system, already just finally mentioned about this important story, and ocean observing system, and digital representation of the ocean, and capacity development, and share the data, information, knowledge, and technologies. And finally is the an inspiring and engaging ocean. Okay, under a global stakeholder forum, there are the 4 groups. National decade committees, so each country now just preparing, as you know, and regional sectorial or thematic stakeholder platform. This is another thing, we have to work on that. And decade implementation partner. This is the, many just scientists that belong to the research institute or universities or NGOs, as they can contribute for the Ocean Decade. And Ocean Decade Alliance, that is the important thing. How to get the money, how to run the programs. Definitely we need a support from the, not only government, industries, or NGOs, so on. So let's think about this a science expert and policy expert. An expert is someone who knows more and more about less and less. And a policy expert may always depend at evidence-based policy making. So need to get both sides to understand the other. So I would like to propose the seminar or a working group for successful implementations of the UN Ocean Decade. Bring together scientists and policy officials, and let the scientists explain what they find interesting and what issues they are studying. Let the policymakers explain the constraint and need for knowledge and plan research programs or projects in the light of those exchanges. I would like to introduce about the some process in Japan. Actually, we have the Japanese working group for UN Ocean Decade. It was a kickoff meeting, was held on the end of August. And under ministries of educations and culture and let me see, I don't remember the more word, but anyway, MEX, at Ocean Earth divisions at the Research and Development Bureaus and IOC subcommittees of the Japanese National Commission of UNESCO are collaborating with kind of the academic societies, just like Oceanographic Society of Japan and Japan Society of Ocean Policies, etc., and the universities and the research institute. And also, we invited private companies and NGOs, members. As observers in many ministries and agencies, and member of the House of Councillors and Cabinet Office, General Ocean Policy Headquarters, and other, ministry and agencies are joined most of the time, and they introduce what they are doing at the meeting place. So, and we established the Japanese National Committee for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. It's a month ago, 25th February 2021. Okay. So this is a kind of function of the committee. One, promotion of the collaborative initiative across various stakeholders at the domestic, interregional, and international level, and the liaison and coordination related to that. Second, preparations of annual report and the periodic report on the ocean decay in Japan. Disseminations and enlightenment and public relations to raise awareness of interest in the ocean decay and other matters that need to be dealt with by committee, and monitoring and the evaluation of activities in Japan. Okay, here is the kind of a snapshot during the workshop of the ocean decay, and huge rooms, but only 20 people get together for the meeting, and with social distance. So almost 1.5 meters apart each other. And the website was launched in December 2020. Yes. And a month later, we published a special issue of the prospect of the UN Ocean Decade in the Science Council of Japan's journal, a trend in the science. So, and Book of Japan practice for UN Ocean Decades, a booklet summarizing the ongoing activities in Japan, which will contribute to the UN Ocean Decade, and an English version also in preparations. Maybe by summer we'll have it. And 48 cases are introduced from ministries, local government, academic societies, research institute, universities, and private companies, etc. But it is interesting. Among the 48 cases, 17 cases covered ocean literacy, inspiring the engaging ocean. So this is a kind of a summary. Human activities, changes in the ocean, increase the atmospheric CO2 concentration, runoff the nutrient, chemicals, and the plastic debris into ocean, and overfishing and disturbance of the marine ecosystem. So it causes sea temperature rise, continued sea level rise, and change in ocean circulation, and ocean acidifications and deoxygenation, and negative impact on the marine life. So what we can do, controlling CO2 emissions at the national level, reduction of marine pollution, prevention of the overfishing, promotion of international scientific cooperation. So achieving sustainable development in the ocean require strengthen the basic research, collaboration in science and policy, and increase in ocean literacy. I think that's it. Thank you. And congratulations for the launch of Malaysia's UNDK again. This is it.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Uematsu. Thank you for sharing what Japan is doing and how you all are getting yourself organized to celebrate this 10-year period of Ocean Decade on Science. What really interested me as a moderator was that the synergy between what you said and Professor Noreni said on the need for ocean literacy, the need for more collaboration between science and policy. And I think something that you said was very important is the need for augmenting basic research in ocean sciences. I think this is something that I think many countries, especially in developing world, will also need to start doing because there's so much more to know, especially in our very interesting equatorial biogeographical region. So thank you so much, Professor, for your thoughts and your sharing. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions also lined up for you by the members who are watching this webinar online. Next, we will, of course, last but not least, we will now go on to our final panelist, Dr. Wenzi Zhu, Head of IOC Regional Office for the Western Pacific. And Dr. Wenzi has been leading the Westpac office since 2006. He's based quite near here in Bangkok. And he'll be talking on advancing ocean research and cooperation in the region, challenges and opportunities towards the UN decade. Dr. Wenzi, you have the floor.
Can you hear me, right?
Yes,
okay.
We can hear you, Dr.
Right.
Wenzi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Nagu, and your excellencies, and also distinguished participants, and also our distinguished panelists. Very good afternoon. So I think it gave me a great pleasure to join this wonderful launch of Malaysia Decade of Ocean Science. We call it Malaysia Decade. I think they really reflect the strong ownership of Malaysia and its a national authority and ocean stakeholder for the decade, and for your strong dedication, to, advancing the ocean science solution to address ocean-related sustainable challenges. So I couldn't find better word than thinking globally, acting locally, to describe the position that the region and also including all our country are taking for the planning for and also engagement in the decade of science. So I'm very pleased to discuss with you about this very preliminary plans and actions on the ground towards the decade. I call it preliminary simply because for such an ambitious undertaking like the UN Decade of Ocean Science, it cannot be prescriptive. We shall be always responsive. Responsive to demands and challenges, always reflective about our actions that we are going to take in, and also inclusive to any good suggestion and also local minds. So undoubtedly, I think Malaysia, like other countries, is truly a maritime nation with a considerable stake in the ocean. Its ocean areas is almost twice the size of its landmass. I think more than 3/4 of the Malaysian population today live on or in the near the coast areas. So I read that more than 50% of the country's GDP actually has been generated from the maritime industries. So indeed, I think the same for the whole region. The ocean is an enormous economic asset. So based on the latest IMF report, even after or during the pandemic period, the economy of this region started to recover tentatively, but at multiple speeds. So the regions indeed, I think, has been serving not only in the past, but also in the post-pandemic recovery as the growth engine of the global economy. So the ocean health and the economy are very vital in the post-pandemic economy recovery. So whether we shall restore economic activity by simply restore the old pattern of ecosystem degradation, or creating more sustainable and more resilient ocean and the society, to meet the needs of the present and also without compromising the needs of future generation. This is what we call sustainable ocean economy. So for instance, I think there are so many development challenges, I think for all of the countries in this region have been facing since the rapid economic development over the last 20 years. I think this is a famous issue that I think the Ministry of Environment and Water and many research institutions has been making a tremendous efforts in combating the plastic pollution. So since 2010. So more interestingly, based on the latest result published in October of last year, in 2016, there's a great change to the ranking with Malaysia rank dropped from 8th to 16th, and the US contribution among the highest in the world, and Japan and Russia listed among the top 10. So this is also a very good example to demonstrate the determination of our nations in the region to face up those challenges and put numerous concrete action on the ground, which have been generating long-lasting impacts. So I don't have any intention to generate any hard discussion about the methodology and the ranking, but rather would like to highlight the challenges that all our countries are faced with and our numerous actions we are taking and our lasting impact that credible science could generate. So that's why to address all those challenges, I think we, as other distinguished speakers emphasized, we must build collective understanding and knowledge of ocean sustainability, the ecosystem service and functions, and ensure all the science knowledge could underpin the decision making to inform the policy, to inform the decision for building a healthy ocean and also sustainable economy. So that will help you to understand why IOC was established within the United Nations system to work on science, to promote science, but more importantly, to apply science knowledge for good governance, environmental protection, and resource management, and all issues related to sustainable development. This is also precisely explain why IOC UNESCO, I think 30 years ago, established a subcommission for this region as a regional arm contributing to the achievement of IOC or UN global objectives, but also more specifically address the region-specific focus that has been identified by all our members, including ocean and climate change, including marine biodiversity and seafood safety and security, and also ocean ecosystem and human health. I think all those serve as a very fundamental building blocks for the health of the ocean and also for sustainable ocean economy. So definitely, I think IOC respect here doesn't mean only the office where I'm stationed in, but include all countries, competent agencies, our research institutions, and ocean stakeholders in the regions, who work together to strengthen the science policy and science innovation interface, and also to build literacy skills, and also share and apply knowledge, and support marine science capacity building, and also information exchange to advance our collaboration and also source cooperation and the north-south cooperation in ocean research. So a number of our program activity has been established with the joint efforts, as I mentioned, a lot of stakeholders in this region. So in which our Malaysia agencies, institutions, and a lot of scientists have been actively engaged in and also taking lead in coordinating and implementing the region-wide efforts to provide knowledge and service for our societies. For instance, the harmful jellyfish, led by USM, and also the upwelling study led by our distinguished university UMT for long years. So all these different groups and programs are working very hard to deliver the collaboration and deliver the science for our societies. So in this UN decade, I think the subcommission has been taking the UN decade, I think, as a much needed opportunity, particularly in the crossroad between the economic development and the ecosystem sustainability, in order to further elevate the role of science in the national, regional, and also global development agenda. So since very early beginning, 2017-18, we have been motivating or mobilizing a lot of agencies, expert institutions from this region to engage in this UN decade development process. For instance, we took initiative together with other partners internationally and nationally to organize a regional planning workshop with our different stakeholders participating in this working group from 18 countries, including, from policy community, research community, stakeholder, local community, and also business sector, and also a donor agency and the foundations. So this workshop really marked a starting point in the region for the development of UN decade. So since then, a lot of our workshop consultation had been initiated at a different level in different countries on with different topics. So with all topic feedbacks, I think the regions and countries appealing and comments has been well integrated in the finalized decade implementation plan. So I think since our other distinguished speaker already described this UN decade, including its multi-step, iterative and also technical process, how to move the science we need to the ocean we want. So I won't give much detail here. So last year, as also Professor Noeli mentioned, and also Professor Wimas mentioned, the central to the ocean decade is the transformation of ocean science into solution-oriented research that can completely, fully respond to existing and also emerging societal needs. So the central to the transformation is the notion of a co-design and a co-deliver process. That means the research need to reach across and actively seek collaboration between different disciplines and communities of knowledge, and designing and delivering through innovative and sustainable partnership. So this is why last year, working also with a lot of stakeholder communities, institutions, research institutions, governmental agencies, donor agencies, local communities, business sectors, we conduct the dialogue about the UN decade, cut across all the representatives from different sectors and come up with the grand challenges for co-design research in the region. That includes the list here, a low priority according to ocean research in different countries, and also limited trust and cooperation among the relevant ocean stakeholders, particularly taking into account different socio-economic and cultural contexts. A weak transfer of ocean knowledge among, particularly between the scientific community and decision policy communities, and also business sectors. So there's also a growing recognition that the younger generation in our developing countries are less inclined to cultivate their career in ocean science. So, and also there are a lot of constraints on the conduct of ocean research in the coastal states, exclusive economic zone. So there are a lot of grand challenges have been identified from the representative from different stakeholder communities, but we do hope those challenges could be addressed in the coming UN decade. Of course, there are also a lot of good practice actually already in place in the region about co-design and solution-oriented research. So the regional dialogue also conclude capacity development is essential and shall be form our integral parts of the whole co-design and solution-oriented process. So the capacity development must be inclusive in terms of its tools, adaptive to actual situation, and building on existing regionally recognized practice and network, such as the regional training and the research centers network, and also other capacity building initiative that has been initiated by other international or regional organizations in the regions, such as the CIFDAC and also UNEP, UN Environment. So in that of all region-wide consultation and the recommendations, we try to shape our future strategic directions for the region. So we will continuously to advocate and advance ocean science development and cooperation through strengthening the existing ocean science policy and the science innovation interface and the mechanism, and fostering the blue partnership among the whole UN agencies, the regional fishery bodies, countries, different sectors, disciplines, and also communities of ocean knowledge. We will continue to develop and promote the co-designed solution-oriented approach at different levels. Particularly, I think a lot of good practice actually, as also, several distinguished speakers demonstrated at the local level and the national level. It's not that easy, but this is the direction we have to move forward. So we will develop innovative ocean technology and methodologies, conduct the integrated multidisciplinary studies, and the monitoring of the ocean system in the region. So that means in our future program development, we should apply the ecosystem-based approach, multidisciplinary approach to our research program that was established based on the demands, based on the societal issue, and also solution-oriented. We will also keep identifying and replicating the government, industry, research, university, coastal community model that can transform the ocean knowledge into production that can not only help the local community, the country to improve their economic production and prosperity, but also to help improve the ecosystem sustainability. So we will continuously, as a developing region, we will continuously enhance research capacity and transfer the marine technology, building on many, but not limited, existing initiatives. So we will also, our young generation, I think is a future leader of the ocean and ocean science, even it's a leader of our country. So we will continuously to promote the establishment of the regional UN Decade Early Career Ocean Professional Network with a close, inextricable link with all youth initiative at the national level, particularly. We will also particularly empower, as I said, promoting the knowledge transformation model to empower and engage our local community in this process, not only for biodiversity conservation, but also for their sustainable livelihood. There are many, I think, inspiring ideas actually has been generated and they are, analyzed from the 1 year consultation process. So finally, I've said again, the implementation of such a decade cannot be prescriptive. We really need to consider what transformational action we should deliver across different disciplines, sectors, and also geographies. So in our developing region, I think there are a lot of good practice, local minds, and also license as well. We could further identify and catalyze and also promote and further develop. So to this end, in synergy with the global movement, we are developing and strengthening several enabling mechanisms for the region in order for us to better serve the needs of our countries institutions, and stakeholders delivering actions in the decade. So we will, are developing and also organizing the Decade Regional Conference series in conjunction with the traditional Westpac International Marine Scientific Conference once every 3 years, hosted by our member states in the region on rotation basis. That will feature high-level commitment, preliminary panel discussion, and the partnership and the stakeholder dialogue, and also with a number of parallel science sessions structured around the decade and also regional priority. And I emphasize again, we need to start to consider, not only consider, I think more importantly, start developing the demand-driven co-design and solution-oriented decade actions, either program or projects, building on, but not limited to many existing regional, national, even local programs. So I'm pleased to inform you there are several potential proposals already in our pipeline. Soon we will get it ready for submission. So we will also, late this year, we will also organize, I think, the regional kickoff events virtually in August 2021, consisting of a high-level engagement and also consisting of a series of regional decade action incubators serving as a set workshop to really incubate the potential actions to become the potential program of the UN decade actions. So I think this time our Malaysia government indeed, established a very good example, for the UN decade through the organization of these national launching events, and we sincerely appreciate, our colleagues and also excellencies from Malaysia could take an active part in the regional kickoff events that will happen late next year. And next year, as I mentioned, we will organize the first UN decade regional conference in conjunction with a traditional Westpac International Marine Science Conference in 2022 physically. So this is we really hope the pandemic could end as soon as possible and we could meet physically next year. I still remember my first visit to Malaysia in 2017, I think with the great leadership of Professor Noeli and the AOD, that we successfully organized, I think the sixth Westpac International Marine Science Conference in Kota Kinabalu in 2008. So it's 12 years already and time flies, but still a lot of memory are still very fresh in my mind and my heart. So as I emphasize, this is not only a decade belonging to our ocean scientific community, but also to all ocean stakeholders. So there are several engagement mechanisms. I think Professor Wimas has mentioned to ensure your participation. I think more directly, I think for our colleagues and friends from Malaysia, you can propose, lead, and also participate in our decade actions. And also you can become member of the Ocean Alliance to provide your support. You can also establish like the early Korea career professional network, building on the UNESCO club. I think Professor Noeli just highlighted, the promise, the hope that we can say clearly from the younger generation. So more important, and also you can join the decade development team in this region, and also to work with the broad range of the ocean community, including IOC Westpac, to further provide your knowledge, your service to serve the nation's need and also to serve the societal needs. So the COVID-19 pandemic, I think, has proven once again the inextricable links between the human and the health of the nature. And also further improve again the urgency, I think, for us to work more unitedly to respond to these pressing development challenges. So I think there is time for us, particularly with the opportunity provided by the UN Decade Ocean Science. Let's consult our actions, delivering more knowledge and service to our societies. So I would conclude my intervention by wishing you all, your families, colleagues, and also relatives, all the best in this very still challenging time. And also please keep doing well. I look forward to seeing you all as soon as the pandemic ends. All the best. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Wenzi. That was a really very in-depth presentation. And I think I totally agree with you. I mean, your last few words on planetary health, what happens to the planet affects us directly. So I think this COVID pandemic is a good wake-up call. I mean, with every challenges, there's opportunity. And I think this COVID provides a unique opportunity for us to work together. Very excited with the kind of work Westpac has outlined in terms of your action and that you have stipulated to do work in this region. And I think Malaysia will be with you in this. And frankly, we had a few questions from the floor, but they were all issues regarding challenges and opportunities. And I noticed Dr. Wenzi and many of the speakers have spoken. And in the time constraint that we have, that we are going to give room to the Honorable Minister to launch this UN Decade in Malaysia, I would just like to tell the audience who are on us online, you could download the slides. I think my colleague has put the link in the chat box so you can download. And I think we have come to the end of this webinar. And before I conclude, I'd just like to say that this integration between science and policy is so important. And I think to conclude it, I like to put the words of this distinguished scientist, Peter Payot, who was the founder of Ebola. He said that science without politics has no impact, right? Science without politics has no impact, but politics without science can be dangerous. So that's how important the interlink between policy and science. And I think today the four panelists, the distinguished panelists, were successful in painting a picture, painting a canvas on this integration and why it's very important. And I think we've got a decade of ocean science. And let us have a whole of nation approach. And I think it's beyond nation. We'll have to work with our neighbors and other countries to make this decade a success. Thank you all so much. Thank you to the panelists for your time and for joining us. And I think before I pass over to the main MC, I was instructed that we're going to do a group photo. Is that still on? Yeah, so please on your videos, and we can have all of y'all in a matrix, and we can take a quick group photo. Right, so the technical, yes, I see some of y'all there. Yeah, thank you all for owning your video. All right, so there's just us, is it? Okay, so we'll take a quick group photo. All right, thank you all very much. And I thank you all once again, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen who have spent the time with us. In a few minutes' time, the minister will be launching the UN Decade for Malaysia, and it opens a whole new chapter of opportunity. Join us and be with us as we celebrate this UN Ocean Decade for Science. Thank you all very much and have a good day. Back to Sarah, our main MC.
Thank you, Dr. Nagu and distinguished panelists for the very insightful sharing. I believe that all of us in this room and those who are joining us online gained a lot from today's session. Now, the time has come for the highlight of our program, the official launching of the UN Decade Ocean Science. We are honored to have the Minister of Environment and Water Malaysia sharing Malaysia's view on the nation's commitment in achieving UN Decade of Ocean Science targets. Without further ado, I am pleased to welcome the Minister of Environment and Water Malaysia, the Honorable Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Main, to launch the UN Decade of Ocean Science. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera semua. Saya mendoakan hadirin sekalian terus berada dalam rahmat Allah Subhanahu wa taala dan dilindungi daripada segala bahaya sama ada perkara yang tidak kita semua ingini. Tuan-tuan sekalian, saya mengambil kesempatan pada hari ini untuk merakam penghargaan dan terima kasih buat hadirin yang bersama-sama dengan Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air dalam Majlis Pancaran United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021-2030 peringkat kebangsaan. Hadirin sekalian, dalam surah Ar-Rum ayat 41, Allah Subhanahu wa taala berfirman, "Zaharal fasadu fil barri wal bahri bima kasabat aydin nas, yuziqahum ba'dallazi 'amilu la'allahum yarji'un." Maksudnya, telah timbul pelbagai kerosakan dan bala bencana di daratan dan di lautan disebabkan tangan-tangan manusia. Timbulnya bencana ini kerana Allah Ta'ala ingin merasakan kepada manusia dengan apa yang mereka lakukan dengan pelbagai perbuatan buruk dan mudah-mudahan mereka kembali insaf dan bertaubat. Tuan-tuan sekalian, dunia mengakui bahawa sumber lautan dan ekosistem marin merupakan perkara yang penting dan berada dalam kemerosotan dan bahaya yang mengancam keseluruhan sistem tersebut. Pelbagai sektor yang menyumbang kepada pengembangan ekonomi dan kesejahteraan komuniti pesisir pantai khususnya hasil daripada sumber lautan terjejas sebagaimana yang semua kita sedia maklum. Faktor antropogenik diakui sebagai faktor penting yang menyumbang terhadap isu ini. Mendepani masalah ini, Malaysia melalui penglibatan dalam Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission atau IOC di bawah UNESCO telah bersama-sama negara-negara ahli lain bagi membangunkan inisiatif United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021-2030. Inisiatif ini bertujuan untuk memperkasakan bidang sains dan pendidikan dalam usaha pelestarian lautan dan sumbernya. Tuan-tuan sekalian, matlamat pembangunan mampan atau SDG Sustainable Development Goal menyenaraikan pelestarian sumber lautan sebagai salah satu sasaran. Pelbagai inisiatif di peringkat antarabangsa dan serantau dibangunkan bagi menangani isu marine litter, yakni perubahan iklim, jaminan keselamatan makanan dan lain-lain. Tuan-tuan sekalian, Malaysia merupakan sebuah negara dengan garis pantai sepanjang 4,809 km. Ekosistem lautan merupakan salah satu sumber ekonomi yang amat penting bagi negara seperti industri perikanan, pelumbungan minyak dan gas, perkhidmatan pelabuhan, pelancongan, rekreasi marin dan sebagainya. Pemerkasaan tabik urus lautan adalah amat penting bagi memastikan perkhidmatan ekosistem marin dilestarikan untuk kepentingan negara dan generasi akan datang. Tuan-tuan sekalian, bermula tahun 2020, Malaysia menghadapi cabaran pandemik global yang menyaksikan peningkatan mendadak penggunaan plastik sekali guna dalam sektor kesihatan, makanan, perkhidmatan, penghantaran dan lain-lain. Peningkatan aktiviti ini secara langsung meningkatkan potensi pencemaran lautan oleh sisa-sisa plastik khususnya. Sebagai sebuah negara yang sedang membangun, aktiviti ekonomi maritim amatlah penting bagi memacu pembangunan negara. Justru itu, ia merupakan satu cabaran bagi Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air untuk memastikan pelestarian sumber lautan adalah selari dengan pembangunan ekonomi khususnya pada masa ini. Terutamanya dalam pengurusan kawalan pencemaran oleh pelbagai aktiviti yang menjejaskan ekosistem lautan. Tuan-tuan sekalian, pendidikan bidang sains marin amat penting dalam usaha memperkasakan tabik urus laut lestari. Para penyidik tempatan menggalas peranan besar dalam membekalkan dapatan atau bukti kajian yang mampu diterjemahkan dalam proses penggubalan mana-mana polisi. Justru itu, kita mengakui bahawa pendekatan berasaskan dapatan sains adalah satu kaedah penting bagi menghasilkan perancangan yang mampan, relevan dan holistik. Usaha penyidikan dalam bidang sains marin ini perlu disebarluaskan agar masyarakat sedar akan kepentingan sains dalam pembangunan yang mampan bagi negara kita. Tuan-tuan sekalian, usaha pelestarian lautan merupakan satu cabaran rentas sempadan yang besar dan perlu dilaksanakan secara bersepadu, khususnya di peringkat global. Sebagai contoh, pencemaran oleh sisa plastik. Justru Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air mengalu-alukan usaha para penyidik tempatan agar terus mengukuhkan usaha sama dan jaringan kerjasama global melalui pelbagai platform yang sedia ada. Program pada hari ini merupakan manifestasi di mana Malaysia menzahirkan komitmen dalam usaha pelestarian lautan melalui kerjasama erat bersama penyidik dalam bidang sains merit. Sebagai negara anggota IOC dan UNESCO, penganjuran program ini menzahirkan pandangan serius Malaysia terhadap isu kelestarian lautan dan kepentingan sains dalam proses penggubalan dasar dan pelestarian sumber marin. Inisiatif oleh KASA ini juga adalah sebagai pengiktirafan terhadap sumbangan para penyidik dan saintis dalam bidang sains marin. KASA akan terus komited dalam memperkukuhkan usaha sama dengan pemegang taruh bagi memastikan inisiatif pelestarian lautan di negara ini terus dapat dilaksanakan. Akhir sekali, saya sekali lagi merakamkan penghargaan kepada semua pihak yang terlibat dalam menjayakan usaha pelestarian lautan Malaysia. Dengan ini saya melancarkan United Nations Decade of Action Science for Sustainable Development 2021-2030 di peringkat kebangsaan. Semoga ianya memberi manfaat kepada kita semua. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera.
Thank you, the Honorable Minister, Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man. And now, please enjoy a launching video on Malaysia's vision towards the science we need, the ocean we want.
Productive ocean supports sustainable food supply and also sustainable ocean economy.
Accessible data and well-predicted ocean where society can understand.
Clean ocean where sources of pollution are identified and reduced.
A a safe ocean where life and livelihoods are protected.
A healthy and resilient ocean where marine ecosystems are managed and protected.
An inspiring and engaging ocean where society understands the ocean well-being.
Malaysia sentiasa komited untuk memastikan lautan negara dipelihara. Penglibatan Malaysia di bawah pelan tindakan United Nations Decade of Ocean Science adalah langkah terbaik untuk kita terus memastikan Malaysia proaktif dalam berhadapan dengan pelbagai cabaran alam sekitar dan lautan. Dekad ini bakal membawa pendekatan lebih holistik dalam menerokai sains lautan dengan lebih sistematik agar dapat diterjemahkan untuk manfaat negara, ekonomi dan masyarakat seluruhnya.
Ladies and gentlemen, to every beginning, there's an ending. Our program today has come to its end. Once again, I would like to thank everyone for gracing our event with your presence. We truly appreciate it. On behalf of the organizing committees, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude, especially to Dr. Nagu and distinguished panelists, and also everyone who have contributed their time, efforts, and expertise to the success of this launching ceremony. I humbly apologize for any setback throughout the event. With that, I end my duty as Master of Ceremony for today's event with Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you.
Good. Okay. Good. So Professor Noni, take care. Take care. Take care. Saya believe,